Hello, and we are back to our YouTube channel about Kotlin, where we talk everything Kotlin about the language, new releases, new features, talking about new libraries, various frameworks, and it's not an exception today. So we are going to talk about Apache Pulsar with Kotlin, and we have a few more webinars scheduled. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, you should subscribe and set the reminder to get the notification about the new session coming. And basically, that's it for the introduction. And I want to welcome Gilles to our stream today. Hello, Gilles.
Hi, Anton. Nice
That
to meet
must
you.
be an early morning for you, right?
Yeah, exceptionally, I'm at San Francisco today. Yes,
Yeah,
so it's the morning.
so we have transatlantic broadcast today. Anyways, we had a lot of requests for a session about Apache Pulsar, and apparently a lot of people actually doing a lot of work with various data transformations, messaging, distributed systems. Last year we had sessions about Apache Kafka, and those were very popular, and people demanded more of this kind of sessions. So this is why we have Gilles today here with us. And without further ado, Gilles, I want to give the floor to you in order to save the time.
Thank you, Ethan. Thank you very much. So today, so basically, I want to speak a bit about Apache Pulsar. You mentioned Kafka. Apache Pulsar is a technology that can actually replace both Kafka and RabbitMQ, for example, and that is cloud native. So you can basically scale horizontally without any issue. And today I will quickly demo how to build an event-driven application on top of Apache Pulsar. So the application I want to build is a finance application, very simple, where someone applied for a loan. And we will have a service called the loan checker that will actually evaluate the loan and accept it or decline it. And all this based on events distributed through Pulsar. So what I propose to do now is to open and start a new project. So I will really starting from the beginning. So let's start a new project. I will call it, I don't know, something like demo Pulsar Kotlin, for example. Yeah, and choose, let's say Java 11. Okay. That's great. So, oh, I forgot to say also, I'm very happy and very excited to do this demo because actually Kotlin today is my preferred programming language, and Pulsar nowadays is by far my preferred technology as well. So to do this, first we will need to create some models. So let's do that quickly. So I want to create a loan model. Let's say like this. So very quickly, I'm going to use the data class, of course. Okay, and so in this data class for loan, we will have, let's say, an ID, loan ID. Maybe a user ID because a loan is related to a user, and let's say an amount. Okay. So I want to do that with maybe a bit more idiomatic Kotlin. So I'm going to try to use, let's say, more, have a specific class for loan ID or user ID. And I'm going to use a value class for that. So typically, yes, we should have something like this. Let's say ID, and then we can, it will be easier for us if we have a default value. Yes. Okay. I think I will remove this for the project. Okay. So now I can use this value class in our loan model, and I will basically quickly do the same for the user ID. In my case, I prefer to use a value class for instead of a string, for example, just to make sure to not put I don't know, user ID instead of the loan ID, for example. Sorry. Okay. So something, yeah. Okay. And I believe that this notation is still needed. Well, okay. And for the amounts, actually the amount, it's a bit, it's maybe a bit more complicated, because if I want to be precise, I'm going to so I know that for if we are talking about money, it's better not to maybe have double, for example. So I will define cents as an int, and maybe also a currency. Yeah, there is a class for that in Java, of course. Okay, so now I have my loan data model, and I'm going now very quickly to create the event as well. So if I come back to what we want there's 3 events: loan applied, when basically a user requests or apply for an event, for a loan, sorry, and the responses, loan accepted or loan declined. So let's do that. Loan applied. So in the events, we will have basically a loan like this. Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, and we can add some other information, but for the demo we don't need really. Let's say loan decline. And here I will add a reason. Yeah, justify why the loan was declined, and also loan accepted. So basically, I'm creating very quickly my event here. Okay, I think we are good. So I have created my model. I will create my event. Now I will actually create on the main functions the ability to send event to Pulsar. So what I did previously to the demo was to basically download the Pulsar binary. So you can find the documentation on Apache Pulsar on this website, pulsar.apache.org. I will use the last version, 2.10. And Pulsar proposes a standalone binary that you can use to code locally. So what I did was just download the binary and unpack it, and I will just now basically start it like a bin like this. So let me start it. Yeah. So you will find a lot of logs, but at this stage you don't care really. So while Pulsar is starting, I'm going to add on the build file what is needed actually to use Pulsar. So I have to add a dependency, of course. And I think it's org Apache, yes. Pulsar, and I need the clients. And the last version is 2.10. We should be good, I think. So let me refresh that. I'm going to check that we have, no, we have delivery, yes. Okay, so let me check. So Pulsar started now. Okay, what I'm going to centralize everything related to Pulsar to an objet for in Kotlin. Let's do that. So I will call it Pulsar. And I will use that to, for example, to create a client. So let's say find clients. Yes, something like this. Actually, I think I can even simplify. Okay. So what do we see here is that we are using the Pulsar client library, and then we call it with a service URL, Pulsar //localhost with this port. This is the default service URL for Pulsar used locally. Of course, if you have a Pulsar in production, you will have to adapt this URL and probably also provide some authentication parameters that will let you communicate with Pulsar in a secure way. But for now, I think this is all what you need. So we should have with that a client, and let me try it. Okay, so let me try just to check that the communication works. So I don't have any error, so only some warning. So you will see this warning during all the demo. I believe, so it's not an issue, but I believe it's related to my M1 mark. And I'm not sure actually how to remove that. If someone can tell me, I will be happy to. So, but you see also that the main function does not stop. This is because it's a client, it's a resource, and I need to close it. So the way to use it, I'm going to use it in a different way. I'm going to use it like a resource like this. So let's say we don't do nothing with it yet. Okay, let me retry. Okay, so now we can see that the main function is closing, and this is because nothing has to be done, but the client is closed. So now I have to actually create what we call a producer. The producer will help us to basically send message to some topic in Pulsar. So I go back to the Pulsar object and create a producer from here. So I'm asking for a client. Oops. Yes, new producer. Okay, so that's, I think it's correct.
Gilles, the folks in the chat are asking what kind of plugin do you use for auto-completion?
Oh, actually, it's a GitHub. I use a lot GitHub Copilot, and this is,
There was a guess, right?
yes,
It's a copilot, yes.
yeah, it's more guess than auto completion. Yes, and I have to say that it's often quite good. So so to create a producer, just as you can see here, I use a client to create a new producer, and I give the topic. So the topic is basically, if you are not familiar with this type of technology, a topic, you can see a topic has a tube where you put events on the first with a first in first out way to get the event. So I will put events in this topic, and I will later remove get them from this topic. And of course, this makes sense for distributed system. So here I'm coding locally, but the idea is that you have some people actually pushing data into Pulsar, and somewhere else, maybe at the I'm in San Francisco, maybe somewhere else in Paris, you will have the ability to actually pull this data from Pulsar and make something from it. So let me just define the topic now. Oh, for example, yeah, I have this suggestion, and actually it's a good one. So I will put the URL like this. Okay. So in Pulsar, the way you define topic is like this. So typically, you have persistent and non persistent. We will, most of the time, you will work with a persistent approach. Persistent means durable. It means that your events, your messages are actually stored in a very durable way within Pulsar. Look at the documentation Pulsar. You will learn how Pulsar guarantees that your message is in the system will not be lost, even in case of hardware failure, for example. So persistence, here we have a tenant, because Pulsar is natively a multi-tenant system. So it's very useful if you have a different team, for example, working within the same company. They can use the same cluster on different tenants. And here is the namespace. So the namespace, for example, can be used for, let's say, development, production, to isolate what you do. So in my case, for example, I will use demo, and a tenant I will use, let's say, loans. And here I will basically say loan events, for example, for the name of the topic. Okay. Oh, let's keep that internal. I think it's enough. So as I said, I have a new Pulsar cluster. So the tenant and the namespace doesn't exist yet. So let me create them quickly. I think it's admin tenants create, yes, something like that. I did some tests before. So Pulsar has a CLI you can use to, for example, to do this type of thing. So tenants, and then I will create the namespace. And then I keep the, so I keep the tenant there to indicate which the namespace belongs to this tenant, and then do that. Okay, all fine. So now I have the producer able to basically should be able to push an event to this topic. So on the main function, typically I will create the consumer like this. Consumer, I give the client, okay. And here, so why on Pulsar? Sorry, it's a producer, not consumer. I'm going to produce the events, not the messages, not consume them. Okay. So with the producer, I can now send, let's say, a loan. So I don't have yet. As I'm going to use I'm going to do a lot of tests. I forgot to do something on the. I'm going to add a. On the amount, I'm going to add a random function to create an object. So let's say an integer int, no, a random. Next int, yes. And I will say between 0 and this. And for the currency, this is where we can use a very nice syntax of Kotlin. Yes, available currency. Okay. Yeah. So let me check that quickly. Yeah. Okay. So it works. So now I will do basically the same for the loan. It will just help me for testing, make the demo. So companion object. Random. Loan ID.
While you are typing, I will make a few comments
Sure.
about the code. So when I was programming in Java, most of the years, and then I was creating a file per class basically. And when I started programming in Kotlin, my coding style kind of changed, and I started to put everything in one file because in most cases, when you define data classes or value classes or functions, they're pretty short, and it starts looking like an overkill putting a data class per file. And when you were creating the data model, I didn't want to interrupt, but this is what I would usually do. I wouldn't create packages. I would create files, and just instead of file per class, I would put everything in one models.kt file, and then have it all there. And it's like for small applications, even I go to the extremes. I have everything in one file. Totally the opposite what I had in Java.
Yeah, you're right. For example, here the separate file for loan ID or user ID seems overkill, and not useful, and even not helpful. So yeah, I agree. Okay, so now I have some random data. I can create a random loan. So it's it's an event that I'm going to send. Loan applied loan random. Okay. Okay, so of events. So I'm going to send the events. I have an issue here. I guess it's too small, you can read, but basically the IDE tell me that what is required is a byte array and not a lone applied event. So it makes sense because, of course, Pulsar, the typical message for Pulsar is a byte array. Pulsar does not know yet the structure of any event. So I have to apply the byte array to Pulsar. Later, if we have time, I'm not sure we'll have, but if we have time, I can also show how to send structured data and to use schema into Pulsar, because schema has is a feature of Pulsar. Basically, you can to make sure that you do not push any bad data into your topic. But currently, we will work simply with byte array. And so what we need now is a way to transform any instances of those events into a byte array. And of course, we are talking about serialization. And so we need to serialize those events. And to serialize those events, the good thing is that, of course, Kotlin has a solution for you. So the way to do that is the best way to do that is to use the serialization tools provided by Kotlin. And so to do that, you have to add a plugin. Yeah, and I think the current version is 1.6.10. And how to use a JSON serialization, I will also add here. Yeah, I must, it's not that. It's Kotlinx actually, and it's Kotlinx serialization JSON. And its last version is 1.3.2. Let me check. Okay. So I want to serialize those lone apply. So the way to do that, as you know, is to add this annotation that is now available. Okay. Oh, so here the IDE tell me there is an issue. This is because lone itself is not serializable. So I have to do the same. And the same for all the, yeah. Let's serialize that way. Okay. So now we are mostly there. There's still an issue with amount. Okay. Okay. And the last issue is currency. Okay, because actually currency is a Java class, and Kotlin has no idea how to serialize it. This is why I have actually proposed to take a model a bit more complex than only using string, for example. It's because this is the type of issue you encountered where you actually you do some actual work with Kotlin sometimes. So we need to provide a way to serialize this currency, and this is actually done through, what we need is to provide an object called serializer, and that will explain to Kotlin how to serialize this this type of object. So basically, we do like that, currency serializer. Okay, we have a nice suggestion here. Let me check. Okay, so currency serializer, it should be a CAS serializer of currency, right? The description here, what is, yeah, implement member, because I need two members. So you need to learn how to deserialize to a currency, or you need to learn how to serialize from a value. So basically, so currency has a, something specific. Is only is defined by a string, defined by the what we call the symbol of the currency. So we can. I will tell actually Kotlin that this data can be serialized into a string. So this is what is also described here, where the it's serialized into a primitive kind of string. So of course, for this demo, if you are not used to it, it's a bit complex. But yeah, you have the nice documentation of the serializer that will help you. So basically, yes. I will use, if I have a currency, I will use the currency code to encode into string. And to create a currency, I will actually currency get instance from the currency code. And the currency code will be provided by decoder string. So I think we're good here. Let me wait that. Not sure. Oh yeah, sorry, it's a return. Okay. Okay, so now we have our currency serializer, and I'm going to tell Kotlin that he can serialize with this. Okay. Let me. We should be good. Let me try that just to be sure. So I take a random amount, and now I'm going to try to serialize it. Yes. So to do that, I will basically use encode to string. I provide the serializer on the amount. So this should provide a string. Okay. So let's try that. Okay, I still have an error in my code, which is commented. Oh, it seems great actually. So now my amount class is serialized in JSON like this, and it seems perfectly okay. So let's want just to check now that I can't deserialize it, just to be sure. Yeah. So just send a decode from string with we provide the serializer of the class and the JSON. So then let me check that. Okay. So now we see that we can serialize and deserialize the amount class. So that's great. I remove this. Ideally, it should be in test, but don't have much time for adding them. So yes. So now I can actually, I have an event, and I think I should be able to. Oh yes. So let me add something here. I'm going to add a function here to byte array. And no, it's not that. It's just an uncode string this. Okay, so now I have a string, and I want just to convert to byte array. Okay. So now I'm, by applying this method to any instance of learn apply, I should have the byte array. So if I, yeah.
Small request by the audience. Could you please hide the project window, because the font is big enough, and some of the code gets hidden out of the screen when it goes out, like on the right hand side. So if you close the project tool window, you get more space for yourself and actually
This
the
one?
audience. No, the one on the left.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Like this?
Well, I think it will be okay. Now,
Okay.
now it's smaller. If you really need this one in front of you, then I think it's okay still.
Yeah, because I'm switching. I'm not in only one file like you, so I'm switching file. So it's. I will make sure to see all the code on the right. So now I have the events, and I should be able. I think I've just built this to byte array method. So now I should be able to use it, and basically to byte array like this. Okay. Okay. So now I have my Pulsar client. I've created my producer as I have a random event, and I'm able to transform this event into byte array, and the producer should be able to send it to a topic. So basically, I'm here. So I'm trying to send the event to the topic. Let's see if it works. It seems to work. Okay. So it seems to work. So now I'm going to quickly work on the loan checker service. Make sure that this service is able to consume the message and to do something with it. So I will create again, let's say package checker, for example, on a service. So first I'm going quickly to create a loan checker, for example, loan checker class. Okay, and this class will have a check method with a loan. Yeah, and for example, so the idea is, of course, in this example, it will be very, very simple, but the idea is if you have a professional service, will be to use, for example, all the history of the data, all the financial history of the user, and to compare that to the request loan, and to basically to agree on that on the loan. So here, what we can do is, let's say just let's guess that he cannot request more than 5,000 whatever currency, for example. And of course, the result is not an exception. The result should be, let's say, a Boolean. And I think we can do better. I will follow your advice, Anton, and create another class here. For example, I want to create a return type. So let's create. I don't want to use an enum class because I want to provide some specific parameters. So let's create a seed class. Like loan status, for example. Okay, so approve loan status, declined. Actually, I'm going to use a class for that because, as I said, I won't have a reason in it. Okay. So now I can change a bit that. Okay, so true. No, it will be declined. Up. And false. It will be approved. Just checking that. Yes. So I have very simple loan checker class that will, depending on the amount of the loan, will decline it or approve it now. Okay, so now I'm going to use that in some code to that will actually consume the event and apply this method. So let me create that. So I will call that, I don't know, loan checker service, for example. Check service. Okay. Okay. So what I need now is a consumer. So I remind you, I'm trying to build this. So the idea is to consume the message from the topic of Pulsar, and I need a consumer. So for everything for a consumer or a producer, I still need a client. So I'm going to create a new client here and use it as a resource. Okay. And I will do the same than previously. I will create the consumer here. Okay. So new consumer topic, same topic. Just reminder. Yeah. And that's it, I believe. Subscribe. Yes. I think that's enough. Oh no, I forgot something very important actually, is to provide a name. And I will provide the name here. The name for the producer, the name is not that important. Actually, Pulsar create a name for you, a unique name for each producer that produce event or messages to Pulsar. For the consumer, the name is crucial because if different consumer will use the same name, it will use the same subscription, and I will come back to that a bit later. For now, it's maybe not clear, but I will explain that to you soon. So let me, where I am. Yeah, so now I want to create a consumer using the provided clients and with a name. So let's say loan checker, for example. So this is name of this is subscription, and from them I will typically what you can do is something like while true, and then something like that. Okay, so consumer receive. So this method will actually wait until a message is available to be consumed, and as soon as the message is available, it will be provided to into this variable. As you can see, message is a sort of wrapper around your data, and to access data that I have put in the system is actually a message.data. I can have I have multiple. I have a message ID, for example. I have the name of the producer that put the message into the topic, the publish time, a lot of things. But what I'm really interested currently is only the data that I have provided.
Is it possible to consume multiple messages like in batches? Currently, you are reading it one by one, but is it possible to say like I want 100 messages in one go?
Yeah, I think I'm to be transparent. I don't choose to do that because I'm working more on event-driven application than, for example, a batch of data to manipulate. But it's possible, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And also on the producing part, so you can send, the client can send data in batch also to be more efficient. So there's a lot of options available for in Pulsar, and Pulsar is very, very versatile about what you can do. So let's try this. Okay, so I have an error somewhere. Let me check. Subscription name must be set on the consumer builder. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. So it's not a, it's a subscription name. So what is important is to provide a name for the subscription, not for the consumer. The consumer name can be provided provided automatically by Pulsar. The consumer name typically, for example, let's say you have, I don't know, 100 servers reaching for Pulsar. You can give a name for a specific machine or a specific node, and then it can become your consumer name, and it will help you, for example, to identify which node is actually doing a request to Pulsar. But here we are talking about the subscription name, and I will explain you later why it's important. So let me retry this. Okay, so I have no consumer, and let me try to send some data in it. And you can see that I have received some binary data. To make it a bit more spectacular, I will say I will produce much more events. So let's say just repeat 10 times. Okay. So here I will send basically 10 messages. Okay. So as you can see, the messages are received here. So now that I have this binary data, of course, I will deserialize it to make something from it. So let's say that. So actually, I'm going to do a bit the same than in the other way. I'm going to use a companion object and something like that from byte array. Byte array is then decode from string. Lone applied serializer. I don't need that. Yes, and string byte should be okay. Okay. So now, if I come back here, should be able to instantiate. Yeah. So I'm going to print that. Let's restart. Oh, this is something interesting happened. So first, you can see that I now have a lone applied message or instances. So it means that I was able to deserialize and get this message from Pulsar. But you can also see that each time I launch, I get back the same message. The reason for that is that I did not acknowledge the message. So when you receive a message from Pulsar, you need to acknowledge it to make sure that it is removed from Pulsar. So basically, when you acknowledge a message, you say to Pulsar, it's done. I have done everything I need with this message. So let me acknowledge the message now. So I have the message again, but if I retry, okay, so now the messages are gone, are not actually not anymore provided to the consumer because the message have been acknowledged. So what I wanted to show you also an interesting, very interesting feature is that let's me try another another service actually. So to do that, I'm going to edit the configuration and allow parallel run. Okay. So now I have two services, and actually I have one on an exception. So the exception is because, yes, the exception is because when I have created the consumer by default, the type of subscription is exclusive. It means that you can only have one consumer at a time. And so what you need to do if you want to have multiple consumers is to tell that you want a subscription type called shared. Okay. So let me start again. Okay, and now you can see that, let's start again this. You can see that we have still an exception. Okay, it's probably because I have created already the exception, so the subscription, so I need to change the name now or to delete the subscription. So I'm going just to change the name to avoid any issues. It's on the service. Let's say line checker like this. Okay, so now I have two consumer listen to this topic. So it's like I have two services here, and I can have 10, for example. What happens if I send some message to this topic now? Okay, so you can you can see that the first one, the second one, I received 5 messages, for example. On the first one, I've received 5 others messages. So this is how you scale horizontally. You can basically, as easy as that, you can spin off or start 10, 100, 1,000 consumers, and you scale horizontally your ability to process the event in your topic. For the simplicity, I will just remove, I will stop one and keep only one. So now I have this, we are mostly done actually now. So I have this learn events available. And I can use, let's say, I can easily instantiate learn checker. Okay. Okay, and check. Of course, it's not the event, it's the loan that has to be checked. So where, no, when, sorry. So if declines, okay, and learn, yeah, it's not, let's say just like this. So now that I have the event, I can apply the check method of the loan checker to the loan itself and see if it's declined or approved, for example. Let me see again if it works. Okay, I'm going to send some. Okay, so some of them are declined and some of them are approved. Okay, so now what I need to do here is to replace this here, for example, is basically to send some event back to the topic here. So loan accepted event or loan decline events. But before that, I would like to demonstrate something else. Is how to manage any error. Let's say that, for example, let's say that instead, let's say that you have an issue here. Okay. So what happens from there? So some messages will be okay, and some of them will have an exception. So again, I'm launching some. Okay, so you can see that the code exit because basically I've not managed the exception. So I can do that. Let's say that for example, outside of the message, I will try catch everything in it. Oops. Okay. And I will say something like message rejected. Okay, and so now the issue of this message rejected is, so what I have to do basically is to so if we have a success, we acknowledge the message. So if we have an error, we are going to negative acknowledge the message. Okay, because if you don't acknowledge the message or negative acknowledge the message, actually Pulsar will wait for a timeout, and it will at the end eventually negative acknowledge the message, but after a timeout. So it's not efficient. As soon as you know that your message is not as through an error, then it's better to negative acknowledge the message. I think I'm missing. Okay. So let me try this. So some loans are rejected. But when you negative acknowledge message, the message will be actually represented. The consumer will see the message again, and I believe the default time for that is 1 minute. I'm going to change that a bit to make it more obvious. So I'm going to add an option in the consumer side. And I think it's negative, something like that, yes, 10 seconds, let's say 5 seconds. So if I'm not wrong, when you negative acknowledge a message, it will be redelivered within 5 seconds now. Yeah. So this feature is proposed by default by Pulsar. But of course, for example, in this case, the message will be failing all the time. So what you want maybe is something a bit more than that. You want to be able to send your message into what is called a dead letter queue that will actually park all the message that cannot be processed in order to avoid to poison your topic. So you can do that easily on the consumer side by just adding a dead letter policy like this, and I believe dead letter. So you have to build max, and then yeah, max. Let's say 2 build. Okay, so it means that the message will be redelivered twice, and then after that sent to the dead letter queue.
It actually reminds me of some patterns I have seen in Apache Camel, where you can also define this kind of policies for the dead letters and the retries and everything.
So so you can see that it has been catch one time and then deliver 2 more time, and that's all. So now if I retry, those messages will not be in the topic. They will be in the deliver in the dead letter queues now, which by default has a name something like lone events. The del queue, something like that. I check the documentation, but from then you can see the message one by one and try to understand and debug why something bad happens. Actually,
there is a good question in the chat about this. Do the rejected messages stop consuming of all the other messages in the topic as well?
No. No, because you have asked about to be redelivered in 5 seconds on 10, so they are redelivered 5 seconds, but do not stop. Oh, actually, I have. Now, to be honest, I'm not sure anymore, because Pulsar provides also ordering guarantee, and I think these ordering guarantees are also valid when you negative acknowledge the message. So it can poison your topic and stop the consumption if you do not remove them. But to be honest, it has to be checked to the documentation. I'm not entirely sure. But it's a very good question, because it's typically the type of issue you can have.
That's homework for the attendees now.
Yes, absolutely. We could check that actually in real time by pushing a lot of events and see if the consumption is stopped by the redeliver, for example. If we are pushing enough events, let's say. Oh, I don't want to improvise, but we can test that quite easily. Okay, so from there, what I did was to send a message to Pulsar to be able to deserialize the message, to analyze the message, and to understand if the loan is accepted or declined. And then what I can do now is to send back the message to Pulsar. So the easy way to do that is to, for example, is to have different topic for the different type of messages. So I could have a topic for loan apply, and I could have a topic for loan accepted, or I could have a topic for loan declined. It's fine patterns. For some reason, I don't like it much, because you lose the guarantees of the ordering. Or for example, if you have some services that are listening these three topics and I don't know, something like record the event in a database, you are not guaranteed that the loan decline event will be put in the database after the loan applied event, for example. So if you need this type of guarantee, another option is to sum those events in the same topic. And then you will have the guarantee as you take the message one by one. You have the guarantee that the ordering and the timing will be relevant. I've not talked about that, but there is something called key shared. So in my consumer here, I have used a subscription shared, but you have also a subscription called key shared, where that provides you guarantee that a consumer, that the same key will always be managed by the same consumer. And so if you need, for example, some sort of ordering guarantee through the idea of a loan, and you have multi-type of events in the same topic, you can use this type of subscription key shared to guarantee that you receive, that the same consumer receive for a specific loan the event in the right order. If I want to, I don't have, Anton, tell me, do we have still a bit of time or no?
Well, it would be good if we kind of move towards wrapping it up, like let's say
Okay.
5 minutes, and then stop.
Okay, so maybe I will just explain what I will do after that, and but not doing it quickly. So if I want now to have the same event in topic, the issue I have is that I don't know when. So I'm perfectly able to serialize the event and push them to the topic, but when the consumer perceive the event, it does not know which type of event is it. So what I will do was to create a sealed class of event, for example. I will do something like a sealed class of a loan event and make a loan accepted, loan applied, and loan decline as a child of this class. And so it will, for example, for the serialization, it will help for the serialization because it will be a polymorphic serialization, and I will be able to deserialize the event as a loan event, and to know which type of event it is. And the last thing I could do, but it takes a bit more time, will be to add a schema to the topic to make sure that anyone cannot push any content, any byte array that is not compatible with the structure of the events. And so it's a bit more complicated because Kotlin does not Pulsar use the serialization of Java, and we need to provide a custom Kotlin serializer. But I have done an article about that, and I guess, Anton, that we will be able to provide the URL somewhere, maybe in the webinar description. If not, you just send me a message on Twitter, and I will be happy.
We will add it to the description below this video, so it will be there.
Okay, great. So from there, I think we can start here. We stop here. Sorry, Anton, and thank you for having listening. And I was very happy to introduce you to Pulsar and used by this great programming language, Kotlin. Thank you very much.
Superb. Thank you very much, Gilles, for the session. We had quite a lot of questions, and we answered them as we were speaking. But I think one question was still unanswered regarding the client, whether or not there is a client that supports Kotlin coroutines for Apache Pulsar.
Yeah, the short answer is no. It's not that difficult to do. I have built my own for one of my projects called Infinitic.
Mm-hmm.
But currently you can use the Java clients, but you don't have the nice the nice feature provided by Kotlin, and especially the useful use of channels, for example, or coroutines. But it's not difficult to build. Basically, I can we could do that in another session, Anton, if you want.
That would be interesting. Like
Mm.
I can imagine it's basically adding a wrapper that would delegate the calls via the client to some dispatcher, right?
Yeah. So I can for example something. Yeah. Here we will typically will be better to have a be executed through a coroutine, and make sure that, for example, when the coroutine is something like that, when the coroutine is stopped, make sure that this part of the code can stop as well. And here this could be a suspend function. And yeah, if you, for example, I in my article I was mentioning before, I have shown also how to use channels to distribute. For example, you can have a consumer that takes the message from the topic and sends this message on a channel, and have multiple worker to execute those messages in parallel. For example, this type of organization.
Right, right. That's interesting. Another question we had about, it's pretty typical when we have live coding sessions. People ask whether or not they could find the source code for the demo because they want to experiment after the session. So will you put this demo up somewhere in GitHub so we could add the link to the description as well, please?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do that.
Right. So I guess we are. It's a little bit over time, but still, it was a fun session. It was nice to learn about the new library, new framework, and thank you, Gilles. And with that, thank you everybody for coming, and we are done here. So, bye bye.
Thank you.